Okay, hi Harrison. I'm using this technique, which I think is a lot more accessible for the feedback. So, what I've done is I've sort of highlighted in red is grammar and editing, but you have to be ultimately responsible for that. And in yellow, ideas that I think need working on, and also perhaps expression and addressing the criteria. First thing I need to say is, where's your header with your SACE number and the title? Okay, please don't use I in formal English, and you need to stop saying polar opposites. Just say that they are very different. Yes, I think this is okay. They vary in their purpose, but they're still using the same visual elements. They just use them in different ways. While they seem to be opposite in every facet and aspect, they also share similarities within their target audience and form. Yes, that's okay. You do say that yes, they're in the form of print media. Just watch your expression. Both advertisement one and two are both in the form of print media. This is the kind of editing that I do expect you to do yourself before you submit a draft. So you need to make note of that. So the advertisement will be displayed in the form of displayed or published in magazines, newspapers, and on billboards and in bus shelters. Now, don't say, whilst I couldn't find where both the this isn't research project. We don't use I, and we're not talking about research. You're analysing what's there in front of you in order to demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of how the creators of these visual texts are using the conventions of the genre, the techniques of the genre, to create an impact on you. And yes, you have two very different purposes. The purpose of Camel is to promote. Well, you have to show your awareness and understanding that the purpose of all advertising is to persuade their target audience to want to buy the product, and that they do that through creating an emotional connection with their target audience. So are they using pathos? Yes, they are. Are they using logos? Yes, they are. So that's the logic. And you're quite right, the two advertisements, but just tidy up your expression here. The purpose of each advertisement is very different. Keep it simple. While advertisement one is promoting and encouraging, now it's not smoking cigarettes, it's Camel cigarettes. Be clear about that. They don't want you to smoke Marlboro or Lucky Strike or Benson and Hedges. They want you to smoke Camel. Don't smoke Harrison, by the way. But so this is what you need to show your understanding of. Encourages the consumer, target audience, to want to buy Camel cigarettes. So just tidy this up. And what value or desire are they building on? Remember the printout of the PowerPoint slide that I gave you? They're all there. And I think you're right, it's attitude. This idea of you're going to be cooler if you smoke Camel cigarettes. And again, it's important to note, I think this is James Dean, who was the sort of equivalent of Zac Efron of the time. So if it's not him, then it's a pose that's come from, that he made famous. So it's very much, you're quite right, it is targeting. You can understand through this that they are targeting a younger audience, a younger consumer, because he was sort of 18 or 19. So you can always, the clue is in the model or the celebrity that they use. So you can say that the evidence that you've concluded that it's a younger audience of perhaps 16 to 25-year-olds, and it's both sexes, isn't it? Because the men want to look like him in order to get the ladies, and the ladies want to aspire to that kind of the glamour that he's epitomizing. I think perhaps it might be a little bit more biased towards males, but you need to show your understanding of that. And in contrast, the model that this advertisement is using is that of a John Doe. It's very shocking. It's an anonymous point of view, eye-level angle, close-up shot of a dead teenager's, a young dead person's feet. And this tag here is imitating the brand of Marlboro. And it looks like a cigarette packet, but it actually says smoking kills. So you're right, two very different purposes and messages. This one is to sell a product. This one is to change a behavior. So make sure that you've addressed that under purpose. So you need to go back and tidy this up as well. And then with the target audience, you need to, how do you know that it's teenagers? I've just discussed that a bit. The evidence is in the use of the celebrity, the Hollywood celebrity that would appeal to that younger generation of the time. Did you say when it was published? No, you actually need to add that into the form, or at least in social context. You need to have researched that. We discussed that in class. So you need to do a little bit more work on your target audience. I think you're right, it is a similar target audience, but for very different reasons. Social context. It's not an outstanding social issue, it's a long-standing. So I think you've got to just edit and make this very clear and concise, Harrison. Smoking tobacco, or at the time that the advertisement number 1 was being published, the tobacco industry was spending billions of dollars in preventing the true connection between tobacco smoking and nicotine in particular with very, very serious health side effects and death. And in those days, it was still legal to advertise. So you've got to do a bit more research on this, Harrison. And it's not that the risks were exposed and demonstrated by anti-smoking advertisers. This is the development in medical research over the years that they made that connection, and it's now been proved beyond all doubt. And so the governments have imposed more and more restrictions on advertising, and now they're actually putting money into anti-smoking advertising. So again, you're just going to need to go and tidy this up and show your understanding of how the medical research and the social understanding and attitudes towards smoking have changed over the years. So visual elements. Okay, you are not using enough technical language. You need to go back to the Elements of Visual Language handout, and you need to use topic sentences to structure this properly. So you need to say both creators, or the creators of both advertisements, use camera shots and angles to convey their central message. And then you say you analyze the camera shot and angle of advertisement 1. So what is this? It's a mid shot. What's the angle? It's what is it? It's head on. eye view, or eye level is what I'm trying to say. You need to look at look at the body language. Body language is about the way a model looks and moves in an ad, and it's an important way for advertisers to communicate with their audience. Look at his posture. He's just exuding confidence and pleasure and this sort of relaxed attitude. So he's just so cool. Look at what his eye's looking at. His eye is looking at the cigarette. Look at the way that the product has been positioned in the sleeve of his t-shirt. Look at the way this has been made to look like a Hollywood poster of a film, because it's not a photograph, it's an illustration. So you need to have shown your understanding of that. Look at the color. We've got the reinforcement of the brand through the colors used, gold and red. So you've got a lot more work to do here. You've got to look at the sight lines and the positioning here. You've got the yellow on the flame that's repeating that, reinforcing that gold. And then in a similar way, camera shots and angles have been used, but with very, very different effect. Look at the lighting. Look at the fact that they've had this is black. This is a morgue. In this black, sometimes in advertising, is used to have connotations of luxury, but in this case, it is really reinforcing the idea of death. This advertisement is playing on the audience's fear. It's using shock tactics with the statistics and the evidence that they're using. And 90% of them started as teen smokers. It's simple, direct, to the point language that teenagers will instantly be able to relate to. So you've got a lot more work to do, Harrison, particularly given that you haven't actually analysed the language features. So you're going to need to go back. I want to see topic sentences. I want to use the teal, the topic sentence. What's the evidence? So in advertisement 1, they've used a model, but in this case, it's a Hollywood. In stark contrast, advertisement 2 uses a model of a teenage John Doe, dead person. And the very different effects that these are having and how it's reinforcing the two purposes. Again, one is to create that emotional connection that if you buy Camel and smoke Camel, you are going to be the coolest guy on the block. And in the other one, it's if you smoke any cigarettes at all, you're going to end up dead. Very different. So you've got work to do. You haven't even done any of the language features. So I've touched on a bit of that. Please go back to the elements of visual language. Please read through the deconstructing advertisements that have been attached with how the language is analysed. I've got lists of technical language to describe the language, command language, jargon, rhetorical, but it's not using those. But you've got a lot to do. You need to also refer to the document README, language of analysis examples, which again was on that first week that we started this task on Sector, Harrison. So yes, I'm a bit disappointed with 800 words in what's now 4 weeks. So you've got a lot to do. What you have done is okay, Harrison. But what I want in order for you to hit those criteria is that technical language, logical structuring, evidence from the text and explaining the effects. Okay? So happy drafting.